You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. Thanks for joining me for today's podcast episode. As always, we're going to talk about moving internationally, what it's like, the process. Today I'm going to focus on the process a little bit more than I have in the past few weeks. I was originally going to talk about relocating from San Jose, California. San Jose, like many other parts of California, very beautiful, yet over time it's become a very expensive place to live. SDC International Shipping, we're located here in sunny California, in the Los Angeles area to be more precise. But we have locations that we can ship from throughout the United States, throughout Europe, all around the world. We are connected with all of the top ports. Whether we're talking about shipping by air or shipping by sea, we have it down to a science. But when we talk about some of the reasons why people are leaving, wherever they happen to be leaving, I was going to focus more on San Jose originally, like I said, but I want to talk a little bit about the process, I think, today. So when we look at some of the places that people are going to internationally, we can look at places and talk about places like Spain and Portugal and Mexico. One of the only downsides that I see happening, and this happens everywhere, it's been happening throughout history and it's happening again, is that when a place becomes popular or well-known and a lot of people move to that location, then the very elements that made that location so appealing tend to disappear. And today, in 2024, it seems to happen more rapidly than in the past. And so I made a move back in 1993 from where I was living in the state of New Jersey to Southwest Florida. And by the way, if you're here in Florida, SDC International Shipping, we can move you from here also. Doesn't matter where you're located in the United States. Let me just throw that out there. We can take care of you. We have experienced people working in every single state. But one of the reasons that I came here, besides the atmosphere, which I enjoyed, I had had enough of the Northeast weather, cold winters, that kind of thing. And so Florida was like the getaway destination, and I thought after I graduate high school, I want to head down to sunny Florida. And so most of the elements that made the state so appealing at that time are now gone because Florida became one of those hotspot destinations. And today with the internet, of course, all it takes is several years of promoting a space until the population can increase rapidly. And so when the population increases, then the infrastructure has to change, and everything that made that place what it was in the past tends to I was going to use the word evolve, but in some cases it's devolve, I think would be the better fit. But people in some of these countries like Spain, Portugal, and Mexico are recognizing the fact that they're receiving expats not just from the United States, but from all over the world. People relocating to these countries because of a lower cost of living. And like I said, because these places become so popular so quickly, then those locations have to invest in more infrastructure. And so the cost of property goes up, the cost of housing goes up, the cost of everything goes up. Matter of fact, here in Mexico, I was saying it like I'm there, I'm not in Mexico, but in Mexico, it's our close neighbor. So in Mexico, a lot of the Mexican people are complaining that they can no longer afford to live in locations that their family had been in for many years, for decades, because so many expats are relocating there. And again, oftentimes when we use the word expat, those of us here in the United States are thinking about Americans relocating abroad, where the fact of the matter is that every country has expats who are moving abroad, who are moving internationally, who are moving to other countries for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's temporary for education. Oftentimes it has to do with retirement or better job opportunities. And there's several reasons why people decide to uproot and move to another country. But when we look at the mechanics of what it takes to make an international move, it's all going to start with planning. So originally I mentioned San Jose because people are moving from San Jose. And one of the things that it doesn't matter whether you're leaving San Jose or you're somewhere else in the United States listening to this, there's several things that you need to consider to ensure that you have a smooth and stress-free relocation experience. Not every relocation experience is smooth, and not every relocation experience is stress-free. And a lot of times that has to do with people not planning properly, not having their ducks in a row, so to speak, choosing a cheap, inexperienced relocation or moving company. And so everything starts with the research. The research process begins when you decide what your destination is going to be. You research the culture. You research the customs. You research the language, if necessary, to the country that you're moving to. And from there, you're going to weigh the pros and the cons. If the pros outweigh the cons, maybe then you move to the cost of living and the availability of job opportunities. Sometimes people start with the cost of living and the availability of job opportunities, but they skip learning about the culture and customs. They figure they'll just do that when they move there while they're living there, and they'll pick up on things. Now, if you're moving to a country where English is the language that's spoken, then of course you're not going to have any trouble with that. But still, culture and customs sometimes are different, and some people just do not find it easy to fit in because it's just too different from where they've come from. And then a year or two later, they're unhappy with their decision. And so it's better to research that in the beginning and to think about it. It's the things that we don't think about. It's the things that we don't realize that are there. Like that old saying goes, the devil is in the details. We can talk about any topic and it sounds smooth and easy on the surface, but when we actually get involved in the process, we discover all kinds of things. Matter of fact, sometimes we discover things that we wouldn't even have thought about on the front end of asking about. And so this is why research is an invaluable, it's invaluable for you to take the time to do your research. And that includes talking to people who are in expat groups online. I often mention Facebook as a good place. There's Reddit and other places that you can go to and find groups of people from possibly even your area who made the move and are now living in another country. They're living overseas. And you can learn from their experiences and you can get a better idea of what your life might really be like. I know sometimes we look at things through rose-colored glasses because it's something that we want really badly. But again, you don't consider all the details. So I'm not trying to talk you out of moving, of course, but I'm not trying to talk you into it either. I'm just looking at the balance of both sides of it. Everyone's different. Everyone's experience is going to be different, but it's definitely worth your time doing your due diligence and researching things to make sure that you know what you're walking into. Next, of course, would be researching the visa and the residency requirements. So sometimes when we talk about expat life, we're not always talking about, people think about giving up their citizenship. People look at things like an all or nothing situation. And even if you relocate to another country, maybe you're renting there, you're not going to buy property yet. There's no reason why you can't spend X number of months there or X number of months back here in the United States. There's different ways to do it. Again, it's not all or nothing. But of course, the visa and residency requirements are going to be very important because you want to make sure that you're going to be able to stay there legally, and you're going to want to know what's required of you. And all of this happens on the front end. So all of this would fall under researching your destination. Next, we're going to talk about international moving companies because an international move is a pretty big deal when you think about it. I mean, all of your belongings are going to be boxed and crated and moved on to a ship or a plane or possibly both. So you really want to make sure that you're looking for a company like an STC International Shipping. I'm not saying that we're like the only good international shipping company in the world. Of course, there's others too, but the point is you want to look for a company that specializes in international moves, not maybe a local moving company that has some connections in the international space. It's really not good enough because this is a specialty type of service. So choose a company that offers door-to-door services, which means that company handles everything from the moment they step over your door threshold into your house to begin to pack your items, crate your items, all of that, to the moment that all of your items are brought through the threshold door of your new location. That's what door-to-door service is. It's different from door-to-port, whereas door-to-port means that when you get to your destination port, then everything's in your hands. The logistics and everything that happens from that point forward, you have to navigate, you have to map out. And if you don't know anybody in that destination country, sometimes even if you do, you have to weigh the balance of having a professional with door-to-door, or is it worth it to try and do certain things on yourself? That's up to you. So a reputable international moving company will offer door-to-door service, and that includes things like packing, making sure that your documents are prepared, and everything is delivered right to the doorstep of your new home. So, and also consider hiring a moving company that has experience with your particular destination country. Next, you want to think about your moving budget because you have to determine how much money all of this is going to cost, including moving services and living expenses, maybe getting the water and electricity turned on in your name, a new phone in your destination country. So it always helps to get quotes from a few different companies so that you can compare prices. And you want to make sure that nothing's hidden. And also you want to ask if one company sounds too good to be true or too cheap. You want to ask questions and make sure that there's no hidden fees in there. What you see is what you get. Often this makes me think about the car buying experience. When you settle on a price and then you go into that room where the other person tries to sell you extended warranties and all of these different services, and then those things get added on to the bill at the end, and it turns out that you're paying more than you thought you were paying. And when you add the interest in, of course, you can be paying quite a bit. And so they always say that if you're going to buy a car, when you go into that room, you say, all I want to do is sign and drive. Those are the words that you use, meaning you don't want to buy anything extra. You don't want any surprises at the end. And so a budget is a big thing. And how oftentimes do we not consider the budget accurately? So with a company like SDC International Shipping, you'll see how much every single item costs. Nothing's hidden. What you see is what you get, and so that's what you want. Okay, when we talk about getting the right documents, we're talking about the proper documents that you're going to need for an international move, such as your visas. Everybody in your family will have to have a visa. Your passports, your work permits in the destination country. Make sure you have all of these documents together before you leave, and make sure that they're within reach throughout the moving process. You don't want to put everything in a box or a crate and then somebody wants to see it and you don't remember where it is. So you want to have that on you at all times. This may seem like common sense, but sometimes people, when they're busy, they don't think about things like this. And something as small as that, not having your visas or work permits available within reach, can cause a backup and can cause problems. Next, you want to make sure that everything is packed and labeled properly. So this is where hiring a professional moving company comes in really handy, because you'll be dealing with professional packers who know how to pack safely and securely and to label your boxes, which makes the unpacking process so much easier. Nothing can be worse than, especially if you're unpacking everything yourself. There is white glove service that moving companies, including SDC International, offer, which means that we'll even unpack the boxes and put everything away for you if that's what you want. That service is available. It's called white glove service. But imagine this: you have a room full of boxes and you're not sure what's in what box, and then you find something that's at the end of one room that should go 2 rooms over, and you're stepping over boxes while people are trying to unpack in one room, and it just becomes just a cluster, just a nightmare when you're there. But by having everything properly, not just packed but labeled, then each item gets to be moved into the correct living space, the correct room at your destination. It makes the whole unpacking process much easier. Next, make sure you notify all the important parties throughout this entire process. That means your utility companies. You have to let them know that you're going to turn your utilities off on a certain date. You want to talk to your insurance providers. Make sure that they know that you're moving, where you're moving to. Update all of your information. Your employer, of course. Maybe you have an employer on both sides. Maybe you're not self-employed. If you are, that's different. But most people, you'll have an employer at point A, you'll have an employer at point B. Sometimes they're the same company, depending on the purpose of your move. Maybe you're moving because you have a better job opportunity with the same company, but in a different location. Also, you want to inform your friends and your family. Let everyone know what your new address is, your new number, and that way people can get in touch with you. If something important happens, that you're readily available. So these are just a few tips, and again, they may just sound like common sense, but when you're in the process of planning an international move, you have a lot of things on your mind, and it can be easy to overlook something that you otherwise maybe, if you didn't have so many different balls to juggle in your thought life, you wouldn't have dropped that ball. But you can ensure a successful international move wherever you're going if you work with a reputable company like SDC International Shipping. You know, I look at what makes some of these international destinations so appealing today. I can look at Spain, Portugal, and Mexico because right now in San Jose, those are some of the top locations that Californians are relocating to. And I'm sure that we can look at other states like the Northeast, and people are relocating from those areas, the Chicago area, to Spain, Portugal, and Mexico also, for the same reasons. Because you look at a place like Spain, for example, you have the big, vibrant cities like a Barcelona or a Madrid, and visitors they're known for tourism, they're known for their architecture, they have lively markets and nightlife there. And for example, Barcelona has that old Catalan culture combined with the modernist architecture. It really is a beautiful city. Madrid has several world-class museums locating there, very lively street life vendors there. And then you can look at the beautiful beaches and coastline, Spain's coastline areas. As a matter of fact, I have a friend that moved there recently, and they moved from another location in Europe, and they just love it there in Spain. And every once in a while, they'll send some photos, and we get to see what it's like over there. Now, is Spain a perfect destination? I would say there's no perfect destinations. There's always going to be some pros and cons, no matter where you're relocating to, but Spain is up there. I mean, they have a very rich history and culture, delicious cuisine, they have the warm, sunny climate, and in that way, it's very similar to Portugal, because Portugal, another popular destination, also is known for beautiful beaches and coastline. Of course, we have beautiful beaches here in the United States. We can look at some of the Florida beaches that are beautiful, some of the beaches on the east and west coast. Very beautiful, very popular. Portugal, you have to remember that when we're talking about some of these locations, like a Portugal or Spain, I mean, we're talking about histories that go way, way, way back. Whereas here in the United States, we're talking about, a few hundred plus years of history. But when you go to a place like Portugal, we're talking about cities like Lisbon and Porto that have been around for a very, very long time. You can see they have the old-fashioned cobblestone streets, and it's just an experience that unless you're there yourself, people tell me that the pictures don't do it justice. Of course, the cuisine, top-notch in a country like Portugal. The Portuguese cuisine. I actually have friends here from Portugal. They own a restaurant here in Florida, so I've been able to experience it firsthand. Lots of fresh seafood, Mediterranean, European influences, African influences. But the cost of living is very affordable still at the time of this recording in Portugal. Portugal's known for having a relatively affordable cost of living compared with some of the other popular European destinations. And so it brings with it a very high quality of life, accessible health care, a good tax system, a favorable tax system, many people have called it. And so it's a pretty attractive choice for expats. And then we couple that with the nice climate, and you have a fusion of things that make Portugal such an appealing destination. And then, of course, Mexico. If you're here in the United States, you know a lot about Mexico. Sometimes we focus on some of the negative things, but recently I've been seeing some videos online of expats who left jobs here that were stressing them out. One that stands out in mind was a school teacher. She retired in her early 40s. She just had enough of the stress and the fast-paced living. I forgot what state she said she was from, but she mentioned that living in Mexico in general, and in Mexico City more specifically, had given her the perfect blend of things that she was missing here in the United States. For example, she said that the quality of life, everything was more laid back, everything was more relaxed. She didn't feel the same pressure and stress that she did every day living here in the United States. She said even on her days off, she said she felt that way. And while it's true that she retired from a job in teaching, which could be very stressful, that's understandable, she is also doing some part-time work over in Mexico. But again, she feels that the amount of stress is just not comparable from one country to another. Also, she said that Mexico is home to, I believe, more art museums than any other city in the world. So she says she enjoys exploring those, some of the historical locations. So she says every day for her is relaxed, and it's part of a new adventure at this point in her life. She's in her early 40s, and she's just looking forward to experience all of what the country, her new surroundings have to offer. So when you hear something like that, that is a success story. You feel happy for people that are able to do that, and it puts that little seed in the back of your mind. Maybe this is something that I'll do in the future. I guess only time will tell, right? So getting back to the international moving company that you choose, let me just leave you with a few quick thoughts here. Number one, make sure that whoever you decide to move with, whoever you decide to be your moving partner, make sure they're properly insured. A matter of fact, we have at sdcinternationalshipping.com, we have our company license on the top of the website. We can also give you all the information that you may need if you want to research to make sure that we're a legitimate company. We don't hide anything. We're registered with the Better Business Bureau, and so all that information is readily available. If a company that you're talking to seems to be delaying giving you that information, or they just try and change the subject, then that's a sign that you may not be dealing with the kind of professional company that you would hoped you'd be dealing with. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. Of course, do your research. Every company is going to have some bad testimonials. A matter of fact, some of the testimonials that are bad may be put there by a competing company. But if you see the same problems turn up over and over again, then you know that, well, maybe that's something that you should take a little bit seriously. Also consider the company's experience. How long have they been around? How long have they been doing international moves? One of the nice things about SDC International Shipping is that not only have we been around 14 years, soon to be 15 years, but we're big enough to handle moves of any size, but we're still small enough where you can actually talk to the owner of the company. You can actually get on the phone with him, and he'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, or to put you at ease that everything will be taken care of and that he's aware of everything that's going on. You know, sometimes with these really huge mega companies, the oversight just isn't there. And the person that's doing the job, to them, it's just another job. Whereas when you do have that proper oversight in place, believe me, it makes a difference in terms of the quality of service that you're going to receive. Next, you want to look closely at the range of services that a company is going to offer. You want to make sure that you have door-to-door shipping available to you. Even if you don't want it, you want to know that it's there, that it's an option. You want to know that if packing services are available, if they'll help with document preparation, and that's what you're looking for, a door-to-door shipping company. Of course, you want to get a quote. That would come next. You want to make sure that you're able to compare prices, and don't be shy to ask for an explanation about the pricing. Make sure the quote includes all of the services that you're going to need for your move, because a reputable company will customize their services to fit your exact needs. And I'm not saying that you can't scale back on one thing or another. If you need to save a little money, that's perfectly understandable. And SDC, International Shipping, is willing to do that. Again, in other words, everything will be customized to fit your needs because no two moves are exactly alike. Also, consider the customer service that you receive. From the moment you get on the phone to the moment you hang up, if you call back with questions, consider how the company responds to your questions. If you ask them about negative reviews, even consider how they respond to that, because it will give you a sense of what their customer service is like and how they handle problems. All right, I think that's about it for today. As always, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please go ahead and share it with a friend, share it online, or email someone the link. We really appreciate it when you share this podcast. And I think that's about it. If you haven't checked out our website yet, of course, go ahead and do that. We update it each and every month. Matter of fact, weekly, we're adding new content, new information that you can go through. You can chat with us live. You can get an estimate, whatever you want. Our toll-free number is there, so don't be afraid to reach out to us. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.